Hello everyone, welcome to my another video. So I was thinking about what to do, and people seem to like these like top 7s of basically anything, or like top 10s, it doesn't really matter. Today it's gonna be top 7, and it's going to be top 7 cards that I like the most in history of Magic. So, you know, from the beginning until now, cards that I like the most is possible, and I'm forgetting something, doesn't really matter. Also, one thing to point out is that, you know, when you like something in Magic, you generally like it at multiple cards. So, you know, for example, my list has like 0 red cards. I'm not really a red player. I was considering to put Lightning Bolt in just because, you know, who doesn't like Lightning Bolt? But in the end, it's not on the list. So let's get into it. Coming up at number 7, this will surprise a lot of people who don't really know me. Is Gold. I'm not sure how to pronounce it correctly. Gold Meadow or Gold Meadow Stalwart. It's the 1/2/2 Kitkin, and you know, you might on like Twitter or whatever, you might see like Petr Kikac. Kikac is a way how to say Kitkin in Czech, and you know, most of my Magic friends in Czech Republic actually call me like Kitkin, Kiki, Kikac, something like that. And that's because when I was a kid, I always played Kitkins. You know, I couldn't really afford to have like a 5-color control, even though, you know, as I was getting older, I became friends with a bunch of people, and I like, you know, borrowed like a fairies deck or like a control deck here and there. But I was playing Kitkins for the most part, and I was actually winning with it quite a bit as well. I was playing it for like 2 years straight, and even though I wasn't really a good player back then, I kinda, you know, I was playing a lot with it, so I obviously learned the patterns and stuff. And for some reason, this 1-mana guy just like I liked it the most out of the Kitkins in the deck. Funnily enough, the most powerful card in the deck was probably Spectral Procession, which actually didn't make Kitkins, but the deck was still called Kitkins. And yeah, I think the reason why I like the 1-drop the most is that it actually resembles me the most. Like, I look like that guy quite a bit. Like, my face is kind of round, and you know, I was kind of fat, small kid just playing Kitkin. So I just thought that, you know, there cannot really be a list where I wouldn't mention at least one Kitkin, so here it is. So coming up at number 6 is Silvergill Adept. Right after I stopped playing with Kitkins, I kind of became the Merfolk guy. Someone even called me the Merfolk Master. I actually even top 16th, my first Pro Tour that I ever played with Merfolk. And you know, Silvergill Adept is by far the strongest card in the deck. Maybe Ether Vial is better, but from the creatures, Silvergill Adept is the best. It draws you into more cards. You can grow into like a 5/4 guy, and it's just a glue of the deck. You just want to draw as many as possible. Obviously, if you play like a matchup where you just want to kill them the fastest, maybe you play against like a combo deck or something, maybe drawing more lords is better. But yeah, actually when I played the Merfolk deck, you know, in the beginning, most people just play Silvergill Adept on turn 2 in most cases, but as I was like mastering the deck and playing it more and more, a lot of the times it's actually better to play the Lord first, which I will explain. So you have a Mutavault in your deck. So like the problem with playing Silvergill Adept first is that sometimes you cannot double spell on turn 4 because you just have a Mutavault in play and you have like 2 lords that are both blue. So in those cases, it's often better to just play the Lord on turn 2, so that turn 4 you can go both Silvergill Adept and Lord, and that's like not really intuitive. In some cases, it was even better to do that like every time, even if you didn't have the Mutavault in your hand. You can draw into it, and the fact that you can draw into it and you can double spell was like sometimes more important because you know, that's just how the matchup played out. And that's like something that's not intuitive at all, so I just wanted to mention it. And yeah, it's just like a blue small creature that draws you a card. It's just great. It's what I like in Magic. I just love these like small creature deck that kind of outgrind your opponent. Like you can be both aggressive, you can like board encounters and stuff, but you can also like outgrind your opponents like Junt and stuff. So I really like that style of Magic. So coming up at number 5 is, you know, another Merfolk card. It's not specifically a Merfolk card, I already mentioned it. It's Ether Vial. It's the strongest card in the Merfolk deck. Obviously, you don't want to draw like 3 of them or whatever. But I just like, Love it. There's just so many things you can do with it. It's super. I don't think there's like any other card in Magic that does like a similar thing, and it just creates this like different kind of a game where you can like play your creatures at any point. You can activate the vial to maybe, you know, force like a response from your opponent even if you don't have anything. You can play stuff on upkeep. You can do like the trick that, you know, on upkeep you put a trigger on the stack and you put a creature into play and then you put another counter on it and stuff like that. The card just has a lot of play to it, and I just think it's awesome, and it has won me a lot of matches, so I definitely wanted to include it. So coming up at number 4 is a card that actually made me into Platinum, I think. I made a video the other day where I was talking about the best decks that I ever played, and I like mentioned the small Jace, and even though that guy was definitely a big part of my success, I think the actual reason was Dig Through Time. You know, Wizards probably made a huge mistake with a set where Delve was introduced. Both Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time were insane. I think they both. I think it actually wasn't both immediately. Like Treasure Cruise was kind of obvious, like 1 blue, draw 3, just kind of wrapped the Modern and Legacy format immediately. But it took some time for people to realize that Dig is too good as well. And I like remember playing Standard throughout that year. And I was just able to have like Fetch Lands and Dig Through Time and Jace in my deck in Standard, and actually not even that many people were playing these kind of decks. So I think I played pretty well. Like I played Infinite with that deck, but I just think I had a huge deck advantage as well. Like if you build your deck correctly, you can just kind of play the game that you just like trade 1 for 1, and then eventually you Dig Through Time them. And if you build your deck correctly, you usually, you know, have the right answers for whatever your opponent is presenting, especially after sideboard, and it's just really hard to beat. And yeah, I just love Dig Through Time. I even won a GP with it. You know, Grixis Control, Dig Through Time was the centerpiece of the deck. I think it's crazy looking back that, you know, some people even played like only like maybe 3 or 2 Dig Through Time in their decks. I think looking back, it's kind of obvious that that was a clear mistake, but sometimes it's just not obvious immediately that certain cards are broken. So coming up at number 3 is Remand. I love Remand. It kind of does what I love to do in Magic. It's like not overpowered. It has a lot of play to it. Like, you know, you play a spell, they cryptic command it, you can remand your own spell. Not only they don't draw a card, but you get your thing back and you draw a card yourself, so you 2-for-1 them. It was also good in the Merfolk deck because, you know, you didn't really want to play counters because sometimes then you just kind of flood it out and you just had like a 2-2 in play. But Remand kind of lets you interact with like some of the combo decks like Ad Nauseam and stuff. But at the same time, even in like the more grindier matchups or whatever, it like drew you into a card. So you just hit like more guys that was really good because, you know, all of your creatures got better with other additional creatures. It also works really well with Ether Vial. And I even, like when I was living in Japan, I played these like modern tournaments and I played Remand in like my Band Stoneforge Mystic deck. And yeah, I just really like the card. I'm trying to play it anytime I can, but sometimes it's just not really that good enough. But, you know, maybe in Cube or something. Just a very sweet card with a lot of play to it, and I love the art as well. Also, I mentioned Stoneforge Mystic. Maybe I should have included it. I love that card as well. I kind of forgot about it when I was making the list. But I like Stoneforge Mystic as well. You know, as I was saying before with like Silvergill Adept and stuff, Stoneforge Mystic kind of does the same thing, just like a really powerful cheap card that, you know, gives you advantage. All of these creatures like Rogue Refiner, Stoneforge Mystic, the Ice Fang Coatl or whatever, I just love all of these cards. It's just like, you know, it lets you be proactive, but you know, I'm not really like the usual aggro guy. Like, I'm not really like the guy who just tries to kill your opponent the fastest and stuff like that. I like to be proactive, but in a way where I can also grind really well and just like change my game plan depending on the position and my, you know, opponent's deck. And these decks actually tend to be extremely good post board because, you know, you just get to bring in like counter spells against combo decks, like removal spells against aggressive decks and stuff like that, but then you still have these like cheap card advantage cards, and that's just like really hard to beat. Like post board, your deck is just set up where you have the right answers for whatever your opponent is doing, but you also have threats or like cards in general that generate card advantage. and you know, if your deck is set up well, your opponent is almost always disadvantaged unless they're like doing something that you know you're not really prepared for and you don't have the right answers. So coming up at number 2 is a card that's very similar to Remand. It's Vencer Shaper Savant. I'm not sure if I said it right. Unfortunately, I don't get to play with it that often because it's just not that powerful, but I love the card. So anytime I play like a Highlander or Cube, you know, even in Cube, there is often a card that is objectively a lot better than Vencer, but I just don't get to play with that card that often, so I almost always take it given the opportunity. Obviously, there is like a Lotus. I'll take the Lotus, but yeah, I just love Vencer for similar reasons. Like Remand, it just has a lot of play to it. You can bounce your own guys. You know, to 2-for-1 them. It can carry your sword. It can like you can play like the tempo game with it. So it's not really a card advantage card, but it kind of is similar to Remand, and I just love that dynamic that you know the card creates. Coming up at number 1, you know most of the cards that I mentioned here are blue, but actually the card that I like the most is Noble Hierarch. Green is my second favorite color. Obviously blue-green is my favorite combination, but my favorite combination overall is actually Band. Anytime I can play Band nowadays, it's usually only in Modern. I love to do it, and when you look at the Band decks in Modern, most people play like the more controlling version without Noble, but I do play Noble in that Band deck, and I actually think it's really good. I don't really understand why people don't play it in that deck. I mean, I didn't play enough with the deck to know which one is better, but I just like, anytime you play it on turn 1, it's just so powerful, and even later in the game, you can do a lot of damage and stuff like that. And I just really like it for the similar reasons that I explained before. It just kind of plays to my style of these like small creatures that also have like a power, so it's not like they go removal and you lose. It's more like, you know, you're proactive. If they don't have the answer, they're kind of screwed, but if they do, it's fine, the game continues. You're more than prepared to fight, and yeah, Noble is just great, and I love the art. I just like everything about it. It's just so cool. Interestingly enough, they in the new set Modern Horizons, I think it's 2 or something, they printed like a new Noble Hierarch, but instead of white and blue, it adds red and black. But I don't like that guy as much. First of all, I don't like the art at all. Second of all, it just goes into a color pair that I don't like as much, and I actually think it's worse because of that. Like, red and black is usually like, you know, removal spells, discard spells and stuff, and these don't really match up with ramping as much. Like, I'm sure that people are gonna try to play it. You can even play it in like a different 3-color combination or 2-color deck. It's still a powerful card, but you know, just because of the colors that it gives you, I think it's slightly worse. Like, Thoughtseize just doesn't really go well with giving yourself extra mana, like, right? You just like trade 1-for-1, and then you have all this mana. Like, what are you gonna do with it? Like, it is, you know, these kind of decks usually tend to flat pretty badly. So you know, just having like mana guys with 1-for-1 cards isn't usually a recipe for winning. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the card's gonna be great. We'll have to see. I'm sure people are gonna try it in like Modern Jant. I don't really think it's a Detroit Shaman. The like good thing about Detroit Shaman was that obviously on turn 1, ramping is great. Like, you know, you can play your Liliana on turn 2 or like Bloodbraid Elf sooner. That's great, but later in the game, Detroit Shaman was still powerful. But it's not really the case for this guy. It still has Exalted, but that's still, I don't think that's still enough for that deck to want to play it. But I guess we will have to find out. That will be all for today. If you liked the video, please click on the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Bye.